Paul Vennings, the 20-year-old student, accused of smuggling 2 kilos of refined heroin worth £200,000 on the black market in the motor cruiser Sunbird 6, may have jumped his bail at the end of the trial's second day. Under cross-examination, Vennings had broken down in the witness box. Described by the prosecution as furtive, inadequate, deceitful and disliked by his fellow students, the accused decided to change his plea to guilty. After an adjournment, however, this was retracted. The assistant harbour-master from Cherbourg was called to testify about a mysterious mechanic seen boarding the Sunbird 6, a man whom the defence claim must have been responsible for planting the heroin. Recalled for re-examination, Vennings' fiancée, Miss Jennifer Harley, admitted she and the accused had a row on their last day together in Cherbourg over the discovery that she was pregnant. Her evidence, coming at the end of the day's hearing, visibly distressed the accused. But whether he will in fact reappear to face the charges of drug smuggling remains to be seen.
Thank you. Mr. Elliot, will you please proceed?
Lord, in view of the fact that the defendant is not present, may I ask for a warrant for his arrest?
Perhaps your lordship might feel it appropriate to hear from the parents and Miss Harley, as I understand they have something to say that is material as to the whereabouts of the accused.
Very well. Call the parents and Miss Harley. Put them into the jury box, please. Miss Harley, please join Mr. and Mrs. Vennings in the jury box. And now then, I realize that the police have been questioning you on where your son might have gone to. But it might be helpful to the court to know why he has gone. You understand?
Yes, my lord.
Good. Well, perhaps we can start with you, Mr. Vennings.
Yes.
Don't stand up. It's all perfectly informal. Now, what do you think about it? You may speak in perfect confidence, without prejudice. There is no record being set down.
I see. Well, my lord, the fact is that, well, Paul has done something of this nature once or twice before.
Now, when was that?
Well, for example, he ran away from Milton Hall, didn't he? That's his crammers, just before his A-level exams. He just lost his nerve, I suppose. He couldn't face it.
You think this might be a similar sort of reaction?
Well, presumably.
He,
Yes, Mrs. Vennings?
He's always tended to be rather highly strung, Your Worship. Nervous, you know. And then, when he started taking these pills at college...
Pills?
Yes, Bennies or something, I think they called them. Anyway, they made him very excitable, and then sometimes he'd be very depressed.
Are you suggesting that he may be under the influence of these drugs yesterday in this court?
I don't know. Maybe. He's been terribly upset about the whole trial. Well, naturally, he would be.
Do you agree with that, Miss Harley?
No, sir. He kicked Benzedrine months ago, no thanks to her.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Mr. Vennings, if you don't
that
know...
That will be enough, young lady.
I'm sorry, sir, but if Paul's in a mess, it's because of them.
My God, you say that. Your
Will
morals
you
are...
kindly sit down, Mr. Vennings? And you too, Miss Harley. Now, Miss Harley, would you care to tell us why you think he's gone away?
He couldn't take any more. He'd had it. The whole thing got on top of him.
I understand that he spoke to you yesterday. Immediately the court had adjourned. What did he say?
Just that, really, that he'd had it.
Nothing more?
Well, he was all screwed up, in a state.
He said nothing, for example, about betrayal.
About?
Well, watching him yesterday in court, he seemed deeply shocked when you suggested that some personal enemy might have planted the drugs.
Yes.
And then again, when the officer gave the evidence about an informant, a tip-off.
Yes, I knew about that.
You knew about the informant? How could you have known? You were not in court when the evidence was given. How could you know?
Well, you see, what I meant...
The truth, please, Miss Harley.
It was all a damn silly coincidence. It must have been. All right, so it was me who shocked him.
Speak up, please, Miss Harley. You're telling us that it was you who informed against him?
Yes, but...
You knew that he was smuggling drugs?
No, he wasn't. The heroin must have been put there by someone else. But I knew Paul was carrying.
Carrying?
I knew he had a couple of dozen joints with him, marijuana cigarettes. I was with him when he bought them in Cherbourg. That's what we had the row about. You see, he was on just about everything when I first met him, well and truly hooked. So anyway, I helped him. I got him to kick it. He was clean. At least I thought so, until this thing about the pot in Cherbourg.
And it was over this that you had the row?
With the pregnancy. I told him it was stupid. I told him over and over. If he couldn't keep his word about jacking in pot, what hope was there in a future?
And then what happened?
He wouldn't agree. Kept saying pot was harmless enough, and what the hell? So I went. I stormed off to Paris and caught a flight home. Then when I got back, all I could think of was I had to stop him. Somehow, someone had to. So I got this crazy idea that if Paul was caught with just a few joints like that, maybe it'd make him see sense, get his priorities sorted, force things, you know. I love him. I'm carrying his child. You must see how I felt, why I did it, why I cared enough to do it. That's why he's gone. He knows. He knows I shopped him.
Just one question, Miss Harley. You say you knew he had 24 marijuana cigarettes. If that were so, why were they not also discovered during the extremely thorough Customs and Excise search?
I asked him about that too, sir. He said that after I went, he got to thinking. He realized because of me he'd have to kick it. So he dumped them over the side on the way back. And now, because of me...
Young lady, you have told me all this in confidence, and I realize you may wish it to remain a confidence. However, I must urge you to go back into the witness box and tell the jury what you have told me. I'm sure that your lawyers, your fiancé's lawyers, will give you the same advice. Oh, I know. Not easy to confess the betrayal of your fiancé, whatever the circumstances. But you see, his running away like this has gravely prejudiced his defense. And I feel that if you go into the box and repeat in evidence exactly what you have told me, it may help him. All right? Mr. Fry.
We take your guidance, my lord.
Very well. Will all three of you please go back into your seats? You may recall the jury. Members of the jury, I have to inform you that the accused, Paul Vennings, has absented himself, and no one knows his real reason for doing so. In the normal course of events, I would adjourn this trial until such time as the whereabouts of the accused were established. But counsel on both sides are agreed that the trial should go on, and I see no overriding objection to such a course. Mr. Elliot was intending to recall the accused, but he has already given his evidence, and Mr. Elliot tells me that under these circumstances he is not averse to the trial continuing in the absence of the accused. In absentia, as it is called. Now then, a word about this situation. You may well feel that the accused jumping his bail in this way is highly incriminating. But we do not know why he is not here. There may be many reasons. He may have met with an accident, or he may have decided himself that he did not wish to attend. But even if that were the case, I should have to advise you that in itself, per se, it would not constitute an admission of guilt. Now, do not misjudge me here. I am not directing you to disregard the accused's absconding, merely urging you not to prejudge him on it. Now, Mr. Fry, do you wish to recall Miss Harley in evidence?
So afterwards, when I saw Paul on remand in Brixton, naturally I asked him why they hadn't found the pot as well. He said he'd dumped them over the side.
I must object. This is hearsay evidence, and as such, totally inadmissible.
But that's...
Now, I am afraid not. I must direct you to disregard the witness's last statement about what the accused may have said. Is that all you have to say to us, Miss Harley?
If you say I can't tell them...
You may not. Mr. Fry.
Miss Harley, you may not tell us what Mr. Vennings said.
I'm sorry?
You may only answer to the questions which are put to you. Now, Paul Vennings set off for England with 24 marijuana cigarettes in his possession. Despite an exceedingly thorough search by the customs, these cigarettes were never found. What conclusions do you draw from this?
Well, obviously, after I flew off like that...
Threatening to have the pregnancy terminated if you failed to reform his attitude to pot.
Exactly. After I stormed off like that, he had second thoughts. Reformed, as you say, and dumped the pot over the side. He must have, otherwise it would have been found.
And by this same token, if he'd known about the 2 packets of Chinese heroin, would he have dumped that over the side also?
Exactly, but I told you he couldn't have known.
Precisely. Thank you, Miss Harley.
Miss Harley, earlier in this trial, the defence was at pains to exploit you as a character witness. Now, for the accused to have such a sensible young woman as his fiancée was clearly a strong point in his favour. In the light of what you have albeit belatedly confessed, it's obvious that your relationship was not the hearts and flowers image previously evoked by my learned friend. Miss Harley, can you remember the oath you took when you first went into that witness box?
Yes.
When you were recalled by my learned friend, his lordship reminded you of that oath. When I questioned you, I asked if the row you had with the accused was over the drugs he was planning to smuggle, and you answered no. Once again, you were reminded of your oath. And then with the timing of a seasoned performer, you told this court of the baby, cleverly avoiding the question. We now have it that when you first met the accused, he was well and truly hooked all round on all types of drugs. You decided to reform him and thought you had, you tell us, until you caught him planning to smuggle marijuana, correct?
Well, yes.
Yes. In desperation, you told him you were pregnant and threatened to have an abortion.
I was pregnant.
Were you, Miss Harley?
Yes, I'm engaged. We're marrying.
Yes, but why? Because you're pregnant? Or because of your guilt in betraying him to the customs?
No.
I put it to you, Miss Harley, that you don't love the accused. Pity him, maybe, but not love. Because of your actions, you feel the least you can do is go through the motions of an engagement.
No, I care.
Exactly, you care. For your vanity. I put it to you that you're no more in love with the accused than you are pregnant by him. Are you pregnant, Miss Harley? You pregnant now?
Please.
You must answer the question.
Are you pregnant, Miss Harley?
No.